All right, we are live. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Engaging Men Q&A. This is the Engaging Men Q&A with Jay. I'm Javon Howard, Engaging Men Coordinator with the Ohio Alliance to End Sexual Violence. This is the Q&A where we answer all of your technical assistance questions about engaging men in violence prevention, as well as working with male survivors and engaging men in male advocacy. So as always, I do have a few questions that we're going to dive into and get into for this session. But feel free to drop any comments, any questions that you may have as we're having this conversation as well. So we have one question that came in today. This question is actually coming in from a colleague. So I'm going to go ahead and read it out loud, and we're going to get into some other points into answering the question. So the first question that I have, and the only question, honestly, what are the best ways that we can be more welcoming to male-identified advocates, especially when the field tends to be female-dominated? So I really love this question. One, it came from a colleague. And so it's very, very good. And I love when colleagues and my peers get really into the work and are interested in learning more how to expand this work, not just for violence prevention and working with survivors, but trying to get more male advocates. So this is actually one of my goals with my role here with the coalition, is trying to uplift the work and empower the work so we can have more male advocates and more male advocacy in general. And so that would be the first question. The first way I would probably answer this question would be trying to find creative ways in your programs to uplift and empower men in a way of doing male advocacy. So oftentimes when we're having this conversation with men, we're having this conversation with men around violence prevention, that we have a lot of men who are engaged with the work, engaged with the movement in these preventative spaces, or maybe they're not engaged with the work within an advocacy space. So uplifting the work and as an advocacy space for men is the first way that I would say to approach that. I was a male advocate. I did direct service for a period of time. And personally, I never had any issues with working with folks as a male advocate. So speaking to any advocates out there, any men who are interested in the work, I was just from get-go say, and this is for programs as well to share this information, that the work is really not that different than you would expect it to be if you're a female identified advocate. You still work with folks. It's still about helping people. It's still about service. It's still about helping folks get to the services that they need, helping create options and access, and helping folks understand their options and access, and helping them get through their journey of healing. There is no specific gender that is required for anyone to do any of those things and have those skills and fulfill those roles. So it's just uplifting that work in general. It's just like its role as an advocate. It's not gendered. You don't have to be a particular gender to do this work. I would also want to lean into a little bit about the point about the work being more female-dominated. So we know there's a lot of different professions and not just advocacy where we can have female-dominated spaces and still have men working in those spaces, or even vice versa where we have male-dominated spaces or male-dominated industries or occupations and still have women and female-identified people working within those spaces. And so you're not familiar with this, what we call the glass escalator effect. So I'm going to briefly get into that. But the glass escalator effect essentially is that when you work within a space of a particular gender-dominated group, so for example, we'll say female identified folks working in a male-dominated field. There's this glass escalator or glass ceiling effect where women cannot get past a certain threshold. There's a certain gender wage gap. There's a certain promotion gap. There's educational employment opportunities that are sometimes denied or limited. There's this escalator and glass ceiling kind of like space. You would expect that to be the same if it were a female-dominated space with men working within it. So this is where we get the glass escalator effect, where we actually see that men are more likely to still have those similar gains that they would if they were working in a male-dominated field. So that's also one way to have a conversation with men or get more men to come to the space. If they're expecting that they're going to face a glass ceiling effect where they're not going to be respected, they're not going to get the promotions that they're looking for, they're not going to get the gains and the opportunities that they were hoping for growth, that these aren't necessarily barriers that will exist for men, even within female-dominated spaces. They're more likely to still experience similar gains as they would if they were in a male-dominated space. So that's just another thing I would want to add to understanding welcoming advocates, male advocates to the field or not. And it just generally makes spaces more welcoming. Just thinking about it as like anyone who's coming into a new space, coming into a new field, coming into a new space, they've never been in before, looking for ways to make it more welcoming. So reminding folks again that this work is about ending sexual violence. It is not based on gender. You don't need to have a particular gender to work here, and to be passionate about the cause and to show up in any capacity that you're able to. Making it more welcoming with just like having more volunteers that are male identified is one thing. Obviously hiring other folks, doing trainings and recruitment outreach that's very particular and very specific and precise toward male advocates and asking for male advocates. These are some very easy and simple ways to get more advocacy and be more welcoming. So that was the question that we had come in for today for Q&A with Jay. I'm going to give a quick pause to see if any folks who are here would like to drop any comments, any questions. While we're waiting for that, as always, we're going to be closing out. So thank you again for joining me this morning and this afternoon. Hope everyone enjoys the rest of their Thursday. We'll have another Q&A with Jay next month, second Wednesday of every month. So the next one will be in September. Hope to see you then too. All right, y'all. Bye.